rights specialist, and my job was to make sure that the rights of the clients that were in the hospital were protected, and also, it was to, kind of empower people that are in the hospital as well. So there's a lot of different things that take place when somebody's hospitalized, and they feel like a lot of times that they are the victim of whatever the hospital wants to do. Like there's not like a lot of power in your position, that the doctor's decision are more important than your decisions as far as like your health, that the social worker's position is more important than your position as well as far as being in any kind of hospital. So also I want to tackle stigmas that take place as far as mental health in general. So stigma, what is a stigma? Do we know what that is? I'm sorry?
I think it's a false
label? Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am. I like that. I like that definition. Oh, so it's a stigma. Well, that is a stigma. That's something else. That's yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Stigma. So stigma is basically a label that we put on something that has negative connotations, essentially. So we'll throw a label on something and we'll say, this is wrong, we don't like this because it's not something that we necessarily agree with or think is common. So, if somebody says that somebody's crazy, for instance, when women had their suffrage movement, women were fighting for the right to vote, they were saying that women were crazy because they wanted the right to vote. It was something that wasn't common, and it was something that other people didn't think was appropriate, so they called it crazy. And the same thing happens with a lot of mental illness. So if somebody's doing something that people don't think is common, people don't think is socially acceptable, they'll throw this label of crazy on them, right? So one of the things I want to do is kind of break that down a little bit. So first of all, just the fact, we got about 30 adults in here, and statistics show that 1 in every 5 adults here in America is currently dealing with a mental illness. So that'd be 6 people out here that are adults that are dealing with mental illness. So it's a lot more common than what people think. And people's idea of what it is to have like a mental illness and what it looks like is very different as well. So people think that it looks like people slobbing, talking to themselves, walking around in circles and disheveled appearance, and that's not the case at all. At the hospital, I've seen CEOs that came into Harding Hospital. I've seen nurse practitioners, I've seen doctors, I've seen social workers, I've seen lawyers, I've seen nurses, I've seen all kinds of students that go to OSU that end up in the hospital. So it looks a lot of different ways than what people always think of when they think of mental illness. But there's also a lot of misconceptions about it as well. Some of those being you're either mentally ill or you're mentally healthy, and that there's no in between. That's not true at all. So one of those things that kind of defeats that stigma is depression. Just about everybody has some kind of point in their life where they feel depressed. And sadness and depression are very different things as well. Sadness is not like a continuous thing that happens. Depression is something a little bit deeper than sadness. Sadness is appropriate for everybody to have. Something happens in your life, so you get sad. Depression is something a little bit more serious in the fact that it comes and goes. So that's one of the stigmas. You're either mentally healthy, nothing ever touches you, you're all right, you're always smiling, and nothing ever can touch you, where you're just all the way, off the boat, if you will. That's one of the stigmas. Mental illness is a sign of weakness. It's a big stigma that takes place as well. And one of the reasons why I'm an advocate for patient rights as well, because when people feel, they come into the hospital, the doctors say, hey, we think you have major depressive disorder. Hey, we think you have bipolar disorder. People automatically say, okay, well, the doctor's going to make decisions about me. I don't have any rights, or I'm crazy, or I'm not mentally well, so I can't make decisions for myself, or I don't have any rights or anything like that. Other people may see it as something, well, if you're classified as having a mental illness, then that must mean that you can't function with the rest of society. And there are plenty of people that run around in suits and ties and make a lot of money and a lot of decisions every day that suffer with a lot of different mental illnesses. Like I said, CEOs, people making millions and millions of dollars a year, are I've seen in the hospital for psych issues. Another stigma, you can't prevent mental health problems. So mental health problems come about for a lot of different reasons. Like I said, depression is one of those things that kind of comes and goes. There are instances that people have that have like significant trauma in their childhood. Somebody that's been molested, that can cause somebody to trigger a mental illness for somebody to have. They can be living that moment constantly, even up to adulthood, called post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people suffer from that. A lot of people that are veterans suffer from that. Hard economic times. Somebody being in such a stressful position as far as not knowing what to eat, not knowing what they're going to do for shelter or protection, can cause somebody to snap. Anybody heard of the show Snapped?
Yeah.
Snapped? Yeah. So a lot of people that are on that show, it could just be relationship problems. Somebody cheating, a spouse, or somebody taking advantage of you, can make somebody snap. And you put them in a position to where, they're not thinking clearly. And we would classify that as a mental illness. But those are things that can be prevented as well. So we have to keep in mind that that's the case as well. So people with mental illnesses are violent. Naturally. People that have depression aren't necessarily shooting up buildings. They're not out here picking street fights with people and things like that. People that have anxiety disorders aren't out here just, looking for people to hurt or anything like that. And all of those things are things that we see in the hospital as well. So again, as far as mental illness is concerned, it covers a wide range of things. It's not just, you don't know what your name is, or you have 7 personalities or anything like that. It could be that you have severe anxiety, like test anxiety, like test day on anxiety. Anybody ever have test anxiety here? Yeah. Imagine having that, but like all the time, about everything. Everything is a test. Oh, I'm not gonna make it to my appointment on time. Oh, what is such and such gonna think about me when I get there? Oh, this is my first day on the job, and a new person. Everybody's gonna think I'm not smart, or even coming into a space like this. People can have severe anxiety as far as answering questions. When I said, your name and your favorite movie, that can cause some people anxiety to the point where they just can't handle it. That they may even leave. So definitely not violent people for everybody that has a mental illness. Mental health problems are forever. That's not true at all. If somebody classifies you with having a mental illness, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a label that you have to be sticking with for the rest of your life. And that's something that I definitely combat. And I advocate for patients that I see on a regular basis that, this, your label that they gave you as far as a mental illness is not you. You're still Michelle, you're still Azalea, you're still your own person. You're not your mental illness, all right? You're still Poochie. You're not a mental illness, all right? So I'm gonna throw out a couple different phrases. I just want y'all to raise your hand if you've ever heard anybody say this, if you said it yourself, in a lot of different communities, especially, urban communities. There's a lot of different stigmas that kind of go about within our culture. Have you ever heard anybody say, you're too young to know what stress is? Yeah. So, y'all know that Children's Hospital is building a whole mental health hospital? Okay, yeah. So at Harding Hospital at OSU, where I work, we only take children from ages 12 years old up to 17, 18, depending on if they're still in school or not. taking that range. Children's Hospital is building a whole hospital because there's children younger than 12 years old that are dealing with mental health issues. I brought up molestation as being one of the things that can trigger mental health or mental issues. Because kids that are witnessing domestic violence at the house, kids that are just being in, growing up in houses where it's like drug infested, violence and things like that. Trap houses, absolutely, yes ma'am. I spend a lot of time in the bottoms, with my nonprofit organization. And these kids are growing up in a lot of different conditions where they're exposed to a lot of different things at a young age. So that fight or flight response kind of causes them to always be in that mode when they're around those kind of situations. And some people can't turn it off. You come into a school system and people are trying to love on you, but you're still fight or flight. Like, what are your intentions? Why are you getting so close to me? Why is this teacher raising their voice at me? Who do they think they are to raise their voice at me? To tell me to be quiet, tell me I need to sit down. So those are things that when we say things like you're too young to know what stress is, we're just kind of dismissing all of these kids that really are going through some things. You don't have to be 40, 50, 60 years old to know what trauma is, to know what stress is. You must be bipolar. Anybody ever heard somebody say that? Yeah, they just be tripping, man. I just said one thing, they just flipped and they must be bipolar. When we say things like that, we kind of just water down what the definition of bipolar. So just because somebody has a bad attitude, that doesn't mean that you're bipolar. Because you're going off in traffic, that doesn't mean that you're bipolar. It just means that you have low patience. So everybody's not bipolar. It really is a clinical diagnosis that psychologists and psychiatrists alike diagnose people with. So we have to be careful as far as the words that we use, because we could be throwing labels on people. And some people, there's something called the self-fulfilling prophecy. Somebody treats you like a dog, you don't act like a dog. Somebody treats you like you're nothing. When people are in domestic violence relationships, if a man is beating a woman, he tells her that she's nothing. A lot of times she feels like she's nothing, so she acts like nothing. When we tell these kids, they're dumb, they're not smart enough to do this, they're always messing up, they're bad. These kids believe that, and they start acting like that. So when we see kids showing up at school, like, yeah, I told you were bad, you're always messing up, you're hard-headed, this and that. We have to be careful with our words. The same goes with these mental illnesses that we're just throwing out to people. We got to stop calling people bipolar when they're not bipolar, because it's not true. You're not depressed, you're just sad. So I already mentioned there's a difference between sadness and depression. People that are really depressed, that we're just saying, you're okay. You're just sad. You'll get over it. Suck it up. You're fine. Brush it off. We all go through things. We're dismissing something that needs to be addressed. And that's why we have a lot of people that are walking around, like I said, 1 in 5 adults. We have a lot of people that are walking around with mental illnesses that are not being addressed because they have been brushed off, and we may be the ones brushing them off. I know certainly myself, just growing up in society as a man, you're not supposed to show like a whole bunch of emotions. You can't just be sitting over crying and, just playing the violin for yourself about your situations. You got to man up, go out there and get stuff done. If something's bothering you, just shake it off and move on to the next situation. And we see a lot of people dealing, and I see a lot of people coming through the doors of the hospital because they've been doing it for their whole lives. So one thing I would say culturally as well, it affects different cultures different ways. So the minorities, there was a lady when I first started working at the psych hospital. Like I said, I was a psychiatric care technician. So my role, I took vitals of the patients. We did rounds on them to make sure that they were safe. We drew blood. We would get them meals and help them out with those things. If they needed to do their laundry, we have washing machines, washers and dryers, so that everybody can wash their clothes. And I heard a lady, she was what we call a sitter. So when somebody's like not exhibiting safe behavior, they have somebody that does like a one-to-one with them. So you'll have somebody that kind of is like watching you constantly. Like if you're suicidal, and you're showing behaviors that, that you can't be safe while you're on the unit, they'll have somebody pair you up with somebody so that you can be with a staff member at all times. So I was talking to a sitter, and she was a Somali lady, and she said, you know what, this mental health stuff, we don't do this in my culture. She said, we take care of our own people at home. We don't send them to hospitals like this. And this is when I first started. This is about over 3 years ago that I seen this. And when I tell you the influx of people that are of the African descent, Somali, Egyptian, all kind of different, African places have been in and out of these doors, it's unbelievable. But that's something that they weren't addressing in mental health. They were saying, it's cool, we'll take care of it at home. We'll got it. We don't trust the hospitals, we don't trust doctors, we don't trust anybody outside of our family because we got it. And it didn't happen. And there's a lot of people that's running around that don't have it. So we have to be able to just be educated about the decisions that we're making as far as healthcare, and be able to use the resources for what they can be used for. So now, I'm not somebody that will advocate everybody, somebody tells you that you have a mental illness, a doctor, anybody tells you that, I'm not saying just take a whole bunch of medication. That's never been my stance. Even people that come into the hospital that say, the doctor said that I should take this, what do you think? I'm not a doctor, for one. But two, I'm not a big person on just taking any and every medication. There has to be some understanding that goes into that because medications have side effects. So we have to make sure that it's beneficial for you. I'm an ibuprofen kind of dude myself. So, and that's usually what I take. And the way that I grew up too, it was, throw a Band-Aid on it, throw some peroxide on it, clean it out, and you cool. So I wasn't big on, taking medications and, growing up. But some people do need medications and it's beneficial for some people. So we just have to be educated in those things that we're doing. So how do we get educated? It's a good way. What's one way that we can get educated about mental health? Anybody? Research. So we talking Googling or?
Talking to the doctor.
Okay, absolutely. Google. We don't know. Yes,
Google don't always give you the correct thing. They can lead you to different things, and then you think you got it, and then you're taking other options. Also, you gotta know who you want to go to the family.
Yes.
And that's how you get. That's how you're gonna get anything if you go to the family.
Absolutely. So one of the things that they look at always when somebody comes into the hospital, they're looking for something called collateral. So they want to know people that know you. So when you come into the hospital, somebody that's been wandering the streets, just in shorts and no shirt on, and this kind of weather outside, they're like, oh, maybe this person needs to come into the hospital. And the first thing that they're going to be looking for is, who knows this person? Where's this person's mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, wife, husband, and what can we do to get more information about this person, to know what they're like when they're regular, right? So family history is extremely important. So you have to know what's going on in your family and your bloodline, because it does kind of show what's going on and what played a factor into your life. They look at your resources. They look to see if somebody's homeless or not. That's a factor that plays into your mental health. They look if somebody's on drugs or alcohol. That plays a factor in your mental health. They look to see if somebody has been incarcerated. That plays a factor in your mental health. So they look at all these different things. They look to see how much family support you really have. So somebody can have a lot of family, but they might not have a lot of family support. So you can be here, have 70 cousins in Columbus, but don't talk to any of them. So that plays a factor. You feeling alone, and you feeling like you have to make decisions for yourself, and being overwhelmed by things. So yes, absolutely, do research. Get on Google. We have the internet. Thank God. We can look up just about anything that we want and be able to get information on it. So that when you do go talk to a doctor, when you do go talk to a psychiatrist, you do talk to a therapist, you're able to go with information. Like, hey, I read up on this, what's your thoughts on this? And they're not just giving you information for you to just say, okay, that sounds like a good idea, just take your advice, right? Mental health fairs. Who in here knew that there's a mental health fair in May? The NAMI walk? Yeah? So the National Association for Mental Illness, they had a walk, and they have a walk annually to where they kind of bring awareness to mental health and mental illness. So at these fairs, they have a bunch of different booths. Ohio State was one of them. I was at the fair representing Ohio State, and we have booths that gives information about mental health and mental illness, where you can get resources, where you can get help, where you can refer somebody if you have a family member, if you have a friend that needs help. They have fairs that give all this information out for free, and they're not doctors. They're regular people like me that know a little bit about it, and we're able to give you the information so you can make an informed decision. So not only was Ohio State out there, some behavioral health that just opened up about 2 years ago, they were out there. Twin Valley, which is a state hospital, they were out there, and a bunch of different other organizations that help and support people as well were out there. There was a walk this month. Who knew about that? Facebook, yeah, the Out of Darkness Walk. It's a walk for mental health awareness as well, and suicide prevention. So that is another event where they have a lot of different resources that they give out to people. And that's one of the things, like, we don't really know about the resources that we have that are available. You don't have to make an appointment to get information about it. They out here. They were out in Allen Creek State Park walking around.